It's Margarita from People Do You Want to Know podcast with our next episode. This week, I'm featuring Ariel Tidhar, an iconic jewelry and Judaica designer based in Brooklyn, New York. Ariel sells earrings, necklaces, homewares, hair accessories, and other items that combine a sprinkle of Jewish humor with nostalgic references that honor her Israeli roots. Ariel's business has been around officially since 2018, and she's known for her bright, colorful, and acrylic pieces. She was the first to market with this kind of jewelry in Judaica, and she has not only shaped the market, but also inspired a whole suite of other jewelry designers. I wanted to bring her on as a way to recognize not only her work, but the way she pioneered modern Judaica and Jewish jewelry. A side note, as an English as a second language speaker, the word jewelry is very challenging for me. So if I say it weird, you know why. Anyway, in this episode, we cover how Ariel started her business and what it's like to be a Jewish business owner post-October 7th and in general. We also discuss how her business and brand have evolved as they have seen tremendous growth since she started. We have a true vent sesh about being Zionist today. So if you're looking for a pep talk for being unapologetically Zionist, you'll love this episode. Without giving any spoilers, I want to mention that there's a part in the episode that some of you, especially people who know me well, may find really surprising about me. It has to do with jewelry. Okay, I'm not saying any more. Please enjoy this episode. Hey, Ariel. Thanks so much for joining me on People Do You Want to Know podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, let me start with my first question. It's one that I like to ask every guest. Tell us about yourself. What do you do and how did you get there?
Sure. My name is Ariel Tidhar. I am a modern Judaica designer in short. In long, I own and design and operate under the Ariel Tidhar brand Judaica that consists of jewelry and home items that we design in what I deem a modern, whimsical light. We use a lot of acrylic, all sorts of different beading, and so on and so forth.
Perfect. And I think some people don't know, but you're actually the first person to bring to life this kind of bold, vibrant Judaica brand. Talk to us about how you started the brand, your journey to building it, and what you're working on now.
Sure. I never knew I could dream this dream, if that makes sense. If we go way back, I studied fashion design at Pratt Institute, and upon graduating, I couldn't find work. For a while, I was doing random freelance gigs for about a year, and then in my post-grad kind of tizzy, I started making these papier-mâché pomegranates and painting them. And I was offered basically a year exactly to when I graduated to do a gallery show with these pomegranates. Anyway, so I was like, you know what? Something's not working. I'm applying to jobs. Nothing's clicking, whether it's the jobs I'm applying to, whether it's the market, whether it's me. And I was like, I'm going to stop applying to jobs. I'm going to work on this show for 3 months. When the show goes up, I'm going to start again. So that's what I did. The show went up. A week later, I got an email. What I thought was for an interview, but it ended up being like I was going for my first day of work at a bridal accessories brand, not doing design, doing social media because I lied. I was really at the point of like, just say anything to get in the door, truly. I started there. I wasn't making enough money. It was like fine, but I was like, okay, I live in Brooklyn. I live in New York City. I need to make more money. And when my show went up, we also put up with the pomegranates these laser cut acrylic khamsas because I felt like it needed another element. And working in bridal accessories, I was like, oh, well, these khamsas can be earrings. They don't have to be like massive. So I was like, you know what? I'm not making enough money. I'm going to start my own line, which is not good business advice for anyone listening, but it worked out okay for me. Then we properly, what I deem as our proper launch, even though I was selling like things here and there to just like make a buck or two, our proper brand launch I consider August 2018, which now I'm like, wow, that's a long time ago. And from there, it's just been kind of crazy. I don't have a business background. I didn't launch with any sort of like structured business plan. I was just like, I know how to design. I know how to make with my own hands. I need to make more money. Like, I just kind of jumped in head first. Now it's been 5.5 years, which is wild. Yeah. When I launched, I wasn't thinking there's like a need in the market for this. There was, I don't know what, like I wasn't thinking logical. Like, I'm an artist and designer first. I'm not like someone who's like steeped in logic in my first ideas of thought, especially in regards to design. And I wanted to just make stuff that I wanted to wear. I wasn't thinking, oh, maybe there's other people that would want to wear this stuff. I was just like, I need money. I want to make things that I like. So that's what I'm going to do. We launched, and throughout my design evolution as just a creative through school and beyond, I really found a love for color and embellishment. And when we launched, it was just bright orange, bright pink, these super saturated colors mixed with these often ancient motifs of khamsas and Jewish stars, pomegranates, evil eyes. Just because that's what I know. That's what I know, and that's what I love, and I love being Jewish, and that's what I wanted to wear and grew up wearing. I think sometimes people see my brand now, and there's been so many other kind of modern Judaica brands launched since I launched that they're like, oh, what was this big idea? And I'm like, it really wasn't. It was just what was true to me. Truly, it was just what was true to me, what I knew best, what I loved the most. And now people can spot customers of mine like out in the world, and they know, oh, those are Ariel's earrings, which is something I never even knew could be possible,
That's actually such a good point. You have a very clear brand identity. I can very easily tell when someone is wearing any of your items. And I think that's what makes you so iconic, because when you look at some of the other modern Judaica brands, they sell a lot of similar things like the Oy Vey necklace or like the Chutzpah necklace. And it's very easy to imitate and emulate, and they kind of just sell their font of it or whatnot. But it's not possible to replicate what you've made. And that's why we haven't seen it. Your brand is very unique to you. And I kind of want to pivot and dig into this a little bit. I'm guessing that your upbringing and your heritage is a big part for the inspiration of the brand. Talk to me about being an Israeli American, building that into your brand, and how you've been feeling, especially after the events of October 7th.
Sure. So if I can really backtrack, I grew up in Chicago. I grew up in a predominantly Jewish community, but when I went to high school, I went to public high school, and that was kind of the first time where I was almost slapped in the face with my own Jewish identity and the need to show up Jewish and the need for people to know I was Jewish. Like, I would tell everyone that I was Jewish. As I've come into my adulthood and the older I get, the duality of an identity that has two parts that are often contradicting, it's something you have to grow into. It's not something you know or fully understand, I think, as a kid. Growing up, I'm sure a lot of people can say the same. Like, I grew up with Israeli food. I grew up being sent to school with like a pita with turkey and like pickled eggplant on the side. I always used to tell people, like, that scene in My Big Fat Greek Wedding where she like opens her lunch and it's like traditional Greek food? Like, that's when I resonate, but like with Israeli food. When I started in school and as I continued designing, it's almost something I like worked through with my design work and just became more in touch with my design work. And I was in school during Protective Edge. And thankfully, Instagram and the social media warrior agenda was not the same as it is now. But I remember during Protective Edge finding myself in places where I had to defend myself or defend my identity. And it was so distressing to me, truly. And now, how many years later? 7, 8 years later almost, I've come to the point where I'm like, I am not apologizing for anything that I am, for anything that my people are. Like, there's nothing to apologize for. So it just came to a place where I owned it and I owned it in the brand. I owned it in other aspects of my life, not in regards to the brand, like in friendships and not kind of letting people get away with microaggressions with me. And since October 7th, I see so many people unfortunately say they're losing friendships, and I can't say the same because I cut out people for the smaller things. I cut people for microaggressions long before October 7th, which it's sad, but I think in a way it saved me at least one notion of grief in this chaos. I didn't know it was possible to show up more Jewish and proud, more proud of my Israeli American identity, but that's all I've been doing since October 7th. I have never felt stronger about either of those identities, truly.
I have a few thoughts. I want to point out that you are the third guest I've brought on now that has explicitly said, I am done apologizing, like in those words verbatim. I think that's really powerful. And that is exactly what I'm trying to bring in this podcast is we as Jews should stop apologizing for being Jewish. We have nothing to apologize for. In fact, we should be proud and outspoken about the fact that we're Jewish. What is interesting to me about what you said is you said you kind of have a short fuse for people that try to point blame or criticize being Jewish or being Israeli. And you said, long before October 7th, I cut those people out because they weren't ever going to contribute anything to me or my brand. I would never get them to understand. And that's a really comforting thought to hear because I personally, the first few months after October 7th, spent hours every week trying to have discussions with people who consider themselves progressive and liberal and woke, if you will, trying to explain to them that supporting Israel is not hypocritical to their values, that supporting Israel does not negate the right of Palestinian self-determination, that those two things are not at odds. And then at some point, I realized, one, they are exponentially less intelligent than me in this area. So I'm talking to a kindergartner on this topic. Yeah. And two, it's just not worth it. Yes. Like if you want to disagree, go ahead. I'm going to take that energy and that time and fuel it into my own community and support my own people.
You just gave me chills. Because that's totally how I feel too. And after October 7th, as a lot of people, like I was struggling like how do I keep working? How do I keep designing? How do you just keep it on? I found a way within the brand that can give me the energy, give me the koach to continue, but also to give back to Israel and Am Yisrael. And we started raising money with our product. And that was so major for me because not only is it major for me to get Jewish motifs onto Jews and have them wearing it proudly, but to then use the money from those items to give to Magen David Adom and to give to Zaka Search and Rescue is just like, whoa for me. Like I never, on the spectrum of business, I am a speck. Like we do big things, but I am a tiny, tiny speck on the spectrum of businesses and brands. And we donated just under $13,000 collectively, which is, it's just like I never knew I could do something like that. I never knew I could try to do something like that. And obviously it doesn't cure the grief, but it definitely helps carry me on with a goal and something to look towards. And not just me, also my jewelry internet community.
So if anyone's listening to this and you need the validation to know that you don't have an obligation to prove people wrong, to prove anything to anyone, to wring out your pockets and say, I'm not a bad Jew. You don't have this obligation to anyone. And in fact, it's probably a waste of your energy and time. Sometimes it can work if people are willing to have a conversation and they're genuinely open to changing their minds. But usually the people that have strong opinions on that issue, unfortunately, will not. So my next question to you, as a Judaica brand, you have always been very outspoken in your support of Israel. And obviously that stems from the fact that you are Israeli. But there are plenty of Jewish businesses that are not Israeli. And I wanted to ask your opinion. Do you think Jewish businesses today have an obligation to talk about Israel and to support Israel? Why or why not?
Okay. I think my point of view on this is controversial. I think when you show up on the internet, whether you're Jewish, whether you're literally whatever, when you have a following, when you have any sort of platform, whether that's 3,000 followers, whether that's 3 million followers, you have an obligation as a human being to the platform you have created, whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, then you probably shouldn't be on the internet. And as a Jew that functions in the world and also on the internet, I believe we always have obligation to Am Yisrael as a whole, like the people of Israel as a whole. Not necessarily directly the country, but first the people of Israel, the Jews. And coming with that, like when our family is being murdered point blank, I cannot wrap my mind around Jewish people sitting on the sidelines and saying, not my Israel, I'm not that kind of Jew. The only thing that saved you was not being there. And the thing is, if people look back at their history, their families could have been the one that ended up in Israel. Post-war, pre-war. The only reason like someone might not be in Israel is because of the trajectory of their family history and in the diaspora. So I do feel like we as Jews have an obligation to our community at large, to Israel. I don't think this means every day getting online talking about anti-Semitism. I don't think this means getting online and sharing war coverage every day. Like, I think this can look like very different things to very different people. Even on our page and all of my social media meetings, I always say I never want our page to turn into this doomsday of anti-Semitism or doomsday of war. Like, obviously, we are talking about the war in different ways. I was in Israel on a delegation trip in December that I shared about on our page. When I come back to our page, like I do want it to be a sliver of the internet that is filled with Jewish joy and happiness and makes people in tune with being proud about their Jewishness. Because there's plenty of places and people that are better than me in regards to talking about anti-Semitism online, and there's people that are professionals at that. But yes, I do really believe wholeheartedly that when you have a platform, you have an obligation to your community.
Thanks so much for sharing that. It's tough. I have countless stories of content creators who have lost 100,000 followers overnight because of something they said on anti-Semitism, not even Israel. Something they said on anti-Semitism, hatred against Jewish people in any corner of the world. There is nothing controversial or inflammatory about that. I definitely feel like your account and what you post, because you've been able to curate this audience aligned with their point of view on Israel, it very much feels like a safe space following your account and seeing the different content that you post.
It hasn't always been like that, though. Like, I've always been openly Zionist, obviously, but I have not always been in-your-face Zionist. If I think back to a few years ago, like, I posted something about Israel on stories and something about, like, anti-Zionist Jews. I don't remember exactly what I posted, and I remember this DM so vividly, and it was someone who I guess identified as an anti-Zionist Jew, and they were like, well, Zionist Jews are always welcomed at my Shabbat dinner table, like kind of like trying to jab at me, and I was like, okay, well, anti-Zionist Jews are not welcomed at mine. Just caught me in a day where I was like, okay, I'm feeling spicy, like I'll give it to you. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't always like this. And over the years, we have lost followers of Jews who don't agree with just me being who I am. That's truly what it is when it comes to Zionism. It's not like some obscure political belief. It's me believing my family has a place to be, point blank.
That's actually one of my goals of the podcast. Is I'm obviously a proud Zionist and I support Israel through and through. I also support the right of Palestinian people to have self-determination and a nation state of their own. With that said, nothing excites me more than bringing on an anti-Zionist on the podcast and hearing them speak, because those are also people you want to know. You want to know what they're thinking. And I want to be challenged on my points of view. And I am not able to find explanations for a lot of their thought processes and sometimes I think, I'm like, we've got to be defining Zionism differently. I think you're defining this word a different way than I am, because there's nothing problematic about what I'm thinking on that. But anyway, speaking of your audience, a question I have. You've been around for quite a few years, and your audience is getting older, which means that your brand is also evolving to support this new market or this new demographic for your customers. Talk about how the brand's evolving, any new ways you're thinking about the products that you're going to launch. And also, you just moved into a studio. You finally took your business out of your home and into a really cool studio. So what's been going on? What's new? And what can we look forward to?
So at the end of 2023, I sat down with myself and I was like, I'm not such a big goal maker. Like, I always kind of have pinpoints in my head of like, okay, this, I want to achieve this, but I don't rationalize it as goals necessarily. But at the end of last year, I was like, okay, these are things I want in my personal life in 2024. These are things I want for my business, for my health, whatever else. And one of the things I wrote for the business is that by the end of 2024, I wanted to have an external studio space, because we've been working out of the apartment for 5.5 years. 2 different apartments, mind you. We had to move apartments because of the brand, actually. But the opportunity showed itself to me. I didn't even go looking for it. And I was told about this space. It worked for what we needed on all different points. And I was like, okay, the opportunity showed itself and here I am. I have to grab it. So we've had a really crazy year. Honestly, I feel like we're still in the moving process, but we moved like 3-ish weeks ago, I want to say, or 4-ish weeks ago initially. And there's a lot of like ordering of stuff that I still need to do. But yeah, it's really good. I felt like one of the next steps for the brand is we needed a way to be with our customers in person more, whether that be for order pickups that people have been requesting, whether that be for in-studio shopping appointments, and potentially like some small workshops, so on and so forth. So I really felt like this was kind of an area where we were plateauing a little bit in the business and an external space was needed. I'm really excited about everything to come with that. We haven't had anyone here yet because we're still getting settled and organized. And besides that, we have a lot of plans, but none I can really share with you yet. Isn't that the worst? We have some big plans. I'm feeling a big transition in my heart, just as a designer, as a consumer, and, you know, I've almost grown up with my customers in a way. We have definitely like still customers that are quite a bit older than me, and actually we do have like some college age customers still. But I'm kind of like ready for the next step. Yeah, and I can't wait to be able to share it, but I can't share what quite yet, unfortunately.
I'm excited to see it. I want to ask you, what words of encouragement or advice do you have for Jewish business owners who are maybe struggling with running their businesses when there is so much scrutiny and attention on the Jewish people right now?
Sure. So I think it's really easy to fall like to the trenches and the chaos and under the pressure of non-Jews. But I think what we need to remember is at the end of the day, the Jewish community will always have the back of other Jewish people, literally without fail. That's one of the things us as Jews have become so good at because of persecution, unfortunately. But that's what I would tell other Jewish business owners, like not even me, like things I've seen happen to other Jewish businesses since October 7th, the boycotting of just like random Jewish businesses because of October 7th. And then you turn around and you see these businesses have lines down the block. We protect our people and we have the backs of our people, even though it might take extra courage and extra strength and definitely extra chutzpah. Don't fall for the trap, because if you fall because of anti-Semitism, like your community is going to pick you up. Full stop. I would love to see more businesses show up Jewish, whether that's like as simple as just like putting on your Jewish star when you're, I don't know, at your coffee shop, at your restaurant, or I don't know, if you pop online to talk about your product and you're wearing a Jewish star. I love that. I want to see more people actually wearing Jewish stars. I was always like a Hamsa girl, and I actually, since October 7th, put on the star every day.
So I actually don't own any Magen David jewelry at all. I've never
So we're gonna send you one.
You had just launched a mini Magen, because I like smaller, dainty things. I'm also, short.
You're a small person, yes.
Yes. So the mini is perfect. And that's what I was looking at. And I'm excited to own my first Magen David from you. So the reason that I had never purchased anything with a Magen David is because even though I'm one of those people that's like obnoxiously in your face about being Jewish, if you just met me within the first 3 minutes, you will be informed that I'm a Jewish person, but only if I can sense that I'm comfortable disclosing that to you. And when you wear a Magen David, you communicate that you are Jewish at all times to people you want to convey that to and to people you don't. And that was my reservation about owning a Star of David piece of jewelry. However, now I think I'm not scared. And if something happens, then so be it. I have faith that the people around me are good enough where something like that won't happen to me. And if God forbid something does happen, that there are others around me who will support me. And there was a day when the war started in Israel. I think it must have been like early November. So it had been maybe a month in since the war started. And there was this paranoia and craze on social media about like, if you're a Jewish person, whatever you do, do not take the subway on November 1st because there will be attacks in the subway. And it was so upsetting to me. I am not foregoing my agency as a free person on this earth because I'm scared that I'm Jewish. Like, that's just not going to happen. And I rode the subway that day many times and nothing happened. And each time I rode the subway, nothing happened to anyone else. And I don't think there was a single attack on a Jewish person that day in any of the subways. At the very least, it was not reported. It was straight paranoia. So that was a turning point for me where I was like, enough, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a bad New Yorker. I don't want to take the subway regardless of anti-Semitism. But people really struggle to talk about anti-Semitism. And understandably, there was so many things on Instagram this past few months of like, oh, will you hide me? Like, or people saying, oh, take
there
off
was?
your star. Yeah, there was like this campaign of like,
will you hide me?
Your non-Jewish friends, if like another Holocaust came, if they would hide you, or stuff about like hiding your stars. And I put up a post that, I don't know, we can look for it later, but I was like, I don't want you to hide me. I don't want to hide. I'm here. Like, take it or leave it. Why are we going to like give into this like extreme fear-mongering? Obviously, anti-Semitism is real. Obviously, crazy, unimaginable things have happened because of anti-Semitism, current and otherwise. But like, we as a people cannot give into this kind of behavior.
The other thing going back to Zionism is it's not like a theory or a concept. It exists. There is a country on the face of this earth that is built upon Zionist principles. We're not talking about this in theoretical. Like, Israel is here. It's not going anywhere. So a big part of this whole wave of fear-mongering and hiding and whatever else is also erasing the history and the reality of the fact that the state of Israel already exists.
100%. Both of my grandparents on my dad's side were born in Israel. They were born in pre-establishment Israel, but they were born on that land. And you know what? If they weren't, I probably wouldn't be here. My grandfather was born in Tel Aviv. Literally, it was called Tel Aviv when he was born there. My grandmother was born in Rehovot. This is what you call in like Hebrew saying Sabra Israelis, like Israeli-born Israelis. I don't know, when people want to question Zionism, I'm like, okay, so you want me dead and you want my dad dead and you want my grandparents to have never been born. And this goes for so many other people's families as well.
I think what you're saying, if I understood you correctly, is your family lineage would not exist if your family had not gone to Israel before the founding of the state. So when someone challenges Zionism, you're viewing it from the perspective of, well, they don't understand that it's because of Zionism that I'm even on this earth. Like, how disrespectful is that?
Totally. And I love always when people are like, well, they could have went to the States. And I'm like, stop acting like the United States was this country with open arms and hugs and rainbows and unicorns, because it wasn't. Because ships were sent back from the States and people died.
I think it also negates the fact that Jewish people are an ethnic group. And because of that, they are entitled to a nation state as an ethnic group.
Totally.
Which I always chuckle when I think about this. When after World War II, they were trying to come up with a place to, quote unquote, put the Jews. They considered Uganda. That was on the map. That was an option. They were like, we're going to send the Jews to Uganda.
Someone like you, Margarita, with like your family history, you understand that so deeply because like, you know, I grew up with Jewish friends that were from families were from the former Soviet Union or Ukraine, and they don't consider themselves Russian. They don't consider themselves Ukrainian. They consider themselves Jewish. So I think why you resonate so deeply with just all of this outside of just being Jewish, it's because you were told you're not one of us. You know, your family was told you're not one of us.
Yeah, the passports in the former Soviet Union didn't say Russian and Ukrainian for people who were Jewish. It said Jewish because the former Soviet Union viewed being Jewish as a distinct ethnicity. And that is actually true and correct. It's just that that was a tool at the time to persecute rather than to recognize. It didn't have a benefit to Jewish people to disclose that they were Jewish in that light. But it is correct. Jews are a distinct ethnicity. They're different genetically from Russian and Ukrainian people who are not Jewish. Okay, well, I could kvetch on this topic for literally hours. I'm clearly very passionate about it, and so are you. But as we move on here, I have a couple of questions for you. As you're reflecting back on these years of running your business and your brand, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self that it actually gets so much harder, which is terrifying because there's so many moments that I look back on, and even like currently where I'm just like, oh my God, are we even going to get through today? Are we going to get through this week? Because owning a business is truly so brutal. No matter how fun it is, no matter how successful it is brutal. There's so many moments I look back on where I was just like, this is it. This is the end. And it ended up not being. And we got through that. And then, you know, something else came along and another challenge, another difficulty that we needed to solve. And those things became harder. I think also when you, like, the longer you're in business and the more success you have, truly the harder it gets because the problems just become bigger or more expensive or involve other people. So I will say that it gets harder, but you're gonna do it. And also so many things that you never knew you could even dream of, that you never like felt allowed to dream of, are going to be your reality. Because that's like really my truth with the whole brand. I never knew I could be a Judaica designer. Truly, I never knew that until I was one. And then I'm like, oh, I can be this. I never knew that I would be invited to speak with students about being a Jewish entrepreneur, about being proud about their identity. I never knew that we could raise so much money as a tiny brand to help our people. Even if it's just like a drop in the bucket on the scheme of donations being donated, but like we did that, like myself and my customers. So I never thought I could rent a studio, you know, like there's truly so many things that I did not even feel allowed to dream that became my reality.
In a prior episode I had with Manis Friedman, he talked at length about finding your purpose. And he made a very strong point to say it's not a purpose, it's the purpose that you're born for that only you can fulfill. And something that I really admire about you is, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like you're doing the purpose that you were born to do.
Thank you. Before I landed in this niche, like for me, being creative and being Jewish were like the two pillars of my life. And now they exist as one. They're not like separate pillars anymore. And even though like being a designer, being creative is like what's so true to my nature, and that is part of my purpose, I think my greater purpose is aiding Jews to feel comfortable and to feel proud, to like show up in their identity, to show up in their community, like whether that's wearing our product or whether that's wearing someone else's product. I would prefer if it's our product, obviously, but like any Jew showing up in a Jewish motif is a win for me.
And I know you said you have a lot of super secret projects that you can't share, so I guess the best way to learn is to follow you on social media. So that's my next question. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
We are Ariel Tidhar everywhere on the internet. I think the best place to really be in the know is on Instagram. We are also on TikTok, of course, our website. And lately I've been getting into Threads a little bit. So also Threads.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for doing this podcast. As with every guest, this is my last question for you. Who would you like to nominate for the pod?
Of course. So I would like to nominate my friend and my social media strategist, Chloe Laverson, because she works on social media for me, but also she has such a different outlook on social media, and I feel like she would definitely be able to give you something juicy in regards to algorithms and anti-Semitism. She also works for other Jewish platforms as well.
Thanks so much for that nomination. I can't wait to meet her. And thank you for doing this podcast with us.
Thank you so much, Margarita. Anything for you.
Talk to you soon, and can't wait to wear the Magen David. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please go ahead and rate us 5 stars. Be the first to hear our episodes by subscribing to People Jew Want to Know wherever you get your podcasts. And for exclusive content, follow us on Instagram at People Jew Want to Know.